Revelation is one of the most misunderstood books in the Bible, not because it's unclear, but because people often start with conclusions instead of letting Scripture define its own terms. When Revelation speaks about Babylon, the first thing it shows us is not a nation, not an economy, and not a modern political power. It shows us a woman. In Scripture, that matters. Throughout the Bible, a woman used symbolically represents a religious body. And when that woman is called a whore or harlot, it is never describing paganism or unbelief. It is always describing something far more serious, spiritual corruption. Whoredom in the Bible is what happens when something claims to represent God while altering His word, adding authority He never gave, or mixing truth with human tradition. That definition is already established long before Revelation was written. So when John sees a woman in Revelation 17, we're not guessing at symbolism. We're recognizing a biblical pattern. This woman is described as sitting on many waters, and the chapter itself explains what that means. Peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. That tells us immediately, this is not a single country or a local power. This is something global in influence. She is wealthy, influential, and ancient. She is clothed in splendor. She holds a golden cup that looks holy on the outside but is full of corruption within. And John sees something else that is deeply sobering. She is drunk with the blood of saints and with the blood of the apostles. That detail is critical. This is not something that begins in the future alone. Her guilt stretches back through history, back to the earliest witnesses of Christ. This is not an emotional accusation. It is a historical one. Then John hears her own words. She says, "I sit a queen and am no widow." In other words, she claims authority, permanence, and independence. She does not see herself as submitting to Christ as her husband. She claims authority in herself. And Scripture is clear. Any religious system that replaces submission to Christ with self-authority will eventually collapse. Now here is where the heart of the message comes in. God does not tell His people to attack her. He does not tell them to reform her. He does not tell them to defend her. Instead, He gives a warning. Come out of her, my people. That sentence alone changes everything. It tells us God has sincere believers inside her. It tells us He loves them. And it tells us judgment has not yet fallen. Because you don't flee rubble. You leave before destruction comes. Revelation later explains why. The beast, who initially uses this religious system, eventually turns on her. He strips her authority, hates her, and destroys her. Religion is useful to power until power demands worship for itself. That is why Revelation first declares Babylon fallen, before it ever describes her being destroyed. Fallen means exposed, judged in heaven, authority removed. Destruction comes later. This is not a message of hatred. It is a message of mercy. God always warns before He judges. He always calls His people out before destruction falls. The purpose of Revelation is not to stir fear. It is to stir discernment. And the call remains the same. Do not anchor your faith to institutions. Do not trust added authority. Do not stay where God has already spoken judgment. Come out of her, my people. That is not condemnation. That is rescue.